Have you ever wondered why the smartest people aren't necessarily the most successful? Well, let's start out with, what is success? Let's assume it means you're able to do and to have what you want. And in sales, of course, that means you're able to influence somebody to buy from you, which means you have to overcome someone's resistance, their natural negativity toward changing what they do now. They have an inherent skepticism of you, and all these things trigger all kinds of defensive emotions in you. So, the secret that keeps the most intelligent from dominating success is that you can't think when you're flooded with emotions. So, the top Mensa genius in the world is held captive by her fight or flight instincts when she's challenged. And unless she has the skills to rein in that flood of emotions in instinctual reactions, she can't access her intelligence. Doesn't matter how much is up there, you can't use it if you can't access it. That's why you can practice selling skills and objection handling and the perfect presentation. And then you choke when you're in the moment of the sales call. Your emotions override your ability to think. Our experts know what we're dealing with, and it's a lot. We have self-talk from our upbringing to deal with. We have self-esteem issues to deal with. We have job pressure to get the sale. We have authority issues. And we have evolution that gave us this crocodile brain to deal with. That's why it's so important to train our mental game so we can rise above our pre-programmed reactions. Let's hear from our experts now.
I'm here to tell you that business success is 90% mental. What if you made the mental game a priority? What if you made learning mental skills a priority? And you found out what the top people were doing, and you started doing more of that instead of more of what you've been doing. You could make a huge impact in your future.
We found some salespeople could execute hard selling skills very well in the classroom, workshops, role plays during sales meetings. And then when they got in that live world, they would start buckling. And as you said, the logical brain went right out the window and nothing smart was coming out of their mouth. We called it, you're a sales genius 2 hours after the meeting.
I love that.
And you say, why didn't I say this? Or why did I say that? So there's some actual biology and psychology reasons behind that. Well, let's start with, first of all, why are you even not acting in the manner that you do? Maybe give your viewers some of the education behind that. Would that work? And then we can tie that into prospecting.
Perfect.
Because here's what will happen. When you get in those tougher situations, you actually have a biological reaction that occurs. And so you've got that prospect. Why should I buy from you? I've seen 100 guys like you. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala. You refer to it as the crocodile brain. And the amygdala is actually the oldest part of your brain. It was born back in prehistoric times, so it is primitive. And what happens is if it senses danger, it actually will send somebody into what we call a fight or flight response. Now, what starts happening to your body is blood starts leaving the brain because I got to get ready to run. I'm in danger here. Adrenaline starts shooting off, as does cortisol, all of which affects your clarity of thinking. So the fact is, you can't say or execute hard selling skills because emotions are running the meeting, not effective communication, interpersonal influence skills.
We can't depend on other people to be as knowledgeable on us as us around human behavior.
Okay.
And most of the time, we're just sailing through our lives quite well, doing a fine job of just reacting to what's happening based on a set of programmed patterns in us. But as sales professionals, what we're trying to think, and sales professionals who are trying to get really good at this as well, economical around this, we're trying to think, how do I lead the sale by leading with my behavior, by using positive behavior all the time to lead other people in a positive way.
Yeah.
So for sure, this isn't about being able to so much change other people's behavior, but change ours, first of all, so that they react to us. Yeah.
Perfect.
Sales is your number one skill, as you know, and the only thing that stops you is what's going on between your ears most of the time. We all have self-talk. The question is, do you have the consciousness to understand that maybe those thoughts aren't really the thoughts I want to have? They're maybe not my thoughts. That little voice is not necessarily me. It's the composite of parents, coaches, teachers, media, old experiences. And to be able to step back for a moment and go, wow, where did that thought, why am I nervous? Why am I afraid? Why am I upset right now, or whatever the case might be, and be able to assess that, apply a technique quickly, then you're back to your ultimate attitude or mindset again.
Peak performance is more of a subtractive concept than an additive one. Okay. And that means you don't have to do extra things to get in the zone. You have to remove things. You have to remove blocks. So when a salesperson is blocking themselves, how are they doing that? Well, they might have self-doubt. They might be thinking too much. They might be criticizing themselves too much as they go, the inner critic. They may be just thinking too much of what they have to do. And a huge one for salespeople is they may be trying too hard.
They truly want to make a difference to their customers. They truly want to improve their customers' lives, and they have absolute clarity about how they do that. And that's that creates that inner drive that motivates them to go the extra mile. And I want to be really clear on this. Top performers like money, and they want to make money, and money is an important component. Yet, at the end of the day, what differentiates the very top performers from those more average performers are the top performers all possess this sense of noble purpose.
And when I got to the Olympics, I thought I was going to win the gold medal because my practice scores were good enough to do that. But when I got in the competition, same thing happened to me as the example that you shared with the sales guy, is that when I got under pressure, I turned into somebody else. I choked under pressure, ended up losing enough points to in my first half of the program to cost me the gold medal. Now, when the pressure's off, when you've lost enough points where you can't possibly reach your goal, then, pressure's off, so I did well. The last half ended up with silver. What I needed was how to manage the mind under pressure. I needed to know what the winners were doing. And so for the next 2 years, I interviewed Olympic gold medalists to find out what they were doing differently from everybody else. And what I found out was that 95% of all winning, whether it's in sales or whether it's in sport, is accomplished by a very small percentage of people. Maybe only 5% of the people do 95% of the winning. So I've spent my life studying that top 5% to see what are they doing differently to the people that are having trouble reaching their goals, and is it possible for us, once we learn what those things are, to be able to help anyone, no matter where they are, move toward being the best that they can be. Yeah, I was definitely outcome-oriented. I think that's one of the things that we find that, the top people that do 95% of the winning are not trying to win. They're not trying to make the sale. They're trusting that they will.
Let me tell you a little bit about myself, Mary. I was a pro baseball player in the Chicago Cubs organization, and I was obsessed with achieving. I wanted to be a superstar Major League Baseball player. And one of the challenges that you have when you're obsessed with something is that it's not in your full control. And when you're obsessed with something that you're not in full control of and you get attached to it, then you become needy. And that's how I was. My career was filled with a lot of emotional up and downs because I was so attached to what I wanted so badly, but I couldn't control. And this was something that I found when I coached pro baseball, and coaching the Olympics is common, not just with athletes, but with salespeople especially, but with all kinds of executives and all of us. We all have these goals. We set these goals and we want so much, and we can't fully control it, so it brings tension and nervousness. Okay. I'll give you a little example of how it works. Say you have, I call it the power of desire. Okay. The desire is so powerful and important. That's how we got to the moon, and that's how we do amazing things, is through this desire. But one of the challenges of desire is that we become attached to what we can't control. And so say you have desire in the middle here. And so say in the middle is this desire, this goal that you want to have. You want to make a sale, for example, and it's the biggest client, the biggest sale you would ever have. So on the left side of that desire is you become hopeful. You're like, I really hope that I get this sale. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I really hope I do. And when you're hopeful and you don't know you're going to get it, then you're just on the edge of becoming needy. I really need this sale. And so when you're needy, then now we got some issues. Because when you're needy, then you become tense, and then you become doubtful, and then you become anxious, and then it leads to fear.
Okay. And
when you're fearful and you're trying to make a sale, it doesn't work so well. Same thing with athletes, and same thing with any performance. That's one way you can go from that desire that is powerful and important. Is you go the wrong way, you're going to go towards neediness, tension, anxiety, and fear. Now, the right side of desire is focused, confident, and determined, and that's the side we want to be on. And the difference between the two, the biggest difference is that the left side of desire, the wrong side of desire, is you're attached to what you want and can't control it. Mm-hmm. The other side, you're unattached. You have this freedom to just be yourself and make the sale.
Well, I want to give you, I'll do a compare and contrast difference. I was working with a transportation company. And they had some very high marks that they wanted to achieve in terms of profitability. And they said, our vision is that we will be the number one supplier of reliable transportation components to the industry. And, that's pretty common. We want to be the leader in our market. Here are our financial metrics. Yet they were still struggling to differentiate themselves. Okay. The sale always came down to price. They really struggled to maintain their margin, and they were often felt that they were commoditized, even though they actually had some structural advantages over their competition. So I worked with them, and we crafted a noble sales purpose. And upon asking their top performing salespeople, what I heard were comments about how they made transportation safer. They had some component parts that work on the brakes of trains and actually make them safer. They improve reliability. So our noble sales purpose is now we make transportation safer, faster, and more reliable.
Okay.
So to give you an example, so you have we want to be number one in the market versus we make transportation safer, faster, more reliable. Okay. Now picture you're the customer. And one sales rep shows up with the goal of being number one in his market. The other person shows up with the goal of helping make your buses, trains, freight vehicles safer, faster, and more reliable. Which of those two salespeople is going to ask you better questions? Which of those two salespeople is going to be more passionate? Which of those two salespeople is going to better understand your business? And which of those two salespeople is going to go the extra mile? Who are you going to want to do business with? The guy that's trying to be number one in his market, or the guy showing up to help you be safer, faster, and more reliable? That's the difference. Okay. It's mental. But it drives everything.
Yeah, I believe that performance is a function of three mental processes. Okay. The first one is your conscious mind, what you're thinking about. Now, if you're thinking harmful thoughts, you're going to have a problem. You have to find out what are the helpful thoughts. The second one is your subconscious skill. Your subconscious is where your skills are. So, I had the skills. I had the skills all the time. I mean, I really wasn't that much better technical athlete when I was winning a lot than before, because I didn't have the third element. And the third element is self-image, what makes you act like you. So even though what I was thinking about was really kind of okay, I mean, I might have done a better job of not over-trying and learning how to try just hard enough. I should have trusted more and tried less. But my biggest problem was building my self-image. I was too worried about what other people thought. I was too worried about, is this not going to work? Well, I had way too much self-doubt. I allowed myself to think too much about what might happen that would be negative instead of what I wanted to happen. I was too worried about what other people were. I was involved in these conversations about, somebody shot a bad shot. Well, I would tell them about the bad shot I shot. Well, all those were causing my self-image to take a beating. And when I started really understanding that the top 5% don't do that, they don't get involved with those conversations. They don't buy into this idea that okay, I'm going to participate in failure. They think totally about what they want to see happen, and their self-image grows, and they talk about what they want to have happen.
And you say it calmly, you say it nicely, and you know what? You should say it confidently, because power buys from power. And what you have to recognize is if you're not showing up the right way, there's this subconscious piece in your prospect that's sitting there looking and saying, she doesn't look that confident, so if she's not that confident, why would I believe anything about the promise of the product, service, the offering? And I am meeting with a business owner, and, he has built a nice company, but this guy is a high driver, hard-charging guy. And we're really right in the middle of the sales conversation, and he brings in this curveball, and he stops. He looks at me, and he said, "Are you any good?" Now, if you weren't trained in emotion management, that could throw you off of your conversation. And it actually struck me comical because I've worked on this a long time. And also I recognize this guy's hard charging. It probably just popped in his head and he's kind of like, do I even want to spend time with this woman? And so I had a variety of answers I could have given him. But based on everything I read in the situation, I just calmly said, I'm very good at what I do. And then I stopped. He said, okay. And we got right back on track. We've ended up doing business for several years. But that is a trigger had I not been able to respond effectively. And if I started blubbering and, I'm really good, and let me tell you what I but it struck me as comical, actually, because the story in my head was, wow, this guy must throw a lot of people off their game every day.
Training your mental game makes all the difference in winning. You can learn to maintain your confidence, like Colleen Stanley did with a hard charger. You can learn to cultivate your self-esteem, like Lanny did, so you don't drown in worry and throw off your game. You can learn to detach from desire, like Jim did, so you let your real self shine through and make the sale. Before we jump into the practices that will grow your mindset mastery, let's talk about how your mental game affects how big you play in business.